I lost $50,000 in 3 months, not because I was stupid, because I thought I was smart. It started with one trade, then another, then I could not stop. By the time I looked up, half my savings were gone. Here's what broke me. I had a spreadsheet system. I read all the books, I backtested strategies. On paper, I should have been crushing the market. Instead, I got crushed. So I spent 6 months analyzing 100 failed investors. I interviewed people who lost everything. I read every behavioral finance study I could find. And I discovered something disturbing. Smart people do not fail because they lack information. They fail because of 5 invisible traps. Traps that feel logical when you are in them. Traps that almost destroyed my portfolio. Traps that might be destroying yours right now. In the next 20 minutes, I will show you all 5 plus. I will teach you Charlie Munger's inversion method, the mental model he used to become a billionaire by doing the opposite of what smart people do. Stay until the end. Trap number 5 is the one that finally broke me, and it is the most dangerous because it feels exactly like understanding. Before we start, 2 quick things. First, I am not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not investment advice. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The examples I use are for illustrating psychological concepts, not recommending any specific investments. Always do your own research. Second, my name is Alex. I have been investing for 12 years. I have made money. I have lost money. And I have spent the last 2 years studying why smart people make terrible financial decisions. Let us start with the trap that gets almost everyone who thinks they know what they are doing. Trap number 1, overconfidence. Here's what it looks like. You study finance, you read Benjamin Graham. You understand price to earnings ratios, you start to feel like you have an edge. That feeling, it is the trap. A major study analyzed 70,000 brokerage accounts over 6 years. The researchers found something shocking. The more people traded, the worse their returns got. And the people who traded the most, highly educated professionals, doctors, engineers, lawyers, people who were brilliant in their fields, they thought their expertise transferred to investing. It did not. The market does not care about your IQ. The market does not care about your degree. The market does not even know you exist. I fell into this trap in 2021. I had made some money in tech stocks. I started believing I had a system. So I started trading options, complex strategies, spreads, iron condors. I understood the math. I understood the Greeks. What I did not understand was that understanding the mechanics is not the same as having an edge. Charlie Munger calls this the expert problem. When you are an expert in one area, your brain tricks you into thinking you are an expert in related areas. Doctors believe they can pick biotech stocks. Engineers believe they can time the market. The fix is simple to say and hard to do. Humility. Real humility, not fake humility where you say you are humble while secretly believing you are smarter than everyone else. Actual humility, accept that you probably do not have an edge. Except that most professional fund managers who do this full-time with teams of analysts fail to beat a simple index fund. Munger says it best. The big money is not in the buying and selling. It is in the waiting. But waiting is boring. And smart people hate being bored. So they trade and they lose. That is trap number 1. Overconfidence disguised as competence. Trap number 2. The circle of competence illusion. Munger talks about this constantly. Everyone has a circle of competence, things they actually understand deeply. The danger is not having a small circle. The danger is thinking your circle is bigger than it is. Here is a test. Pick any stock you own. Can you explain exactly how the company makes money, not the product? The actual business model, the unit economics, the competitive advantages, the risks, the financials. If you cannot explain it simply enough that a 10-year-old would understand, you do not understand it, and if you do not understand it, you are gambling. I made this mistake with QuantumScape, solid-state batteries, the future of electric vehicles. I read articles, I watched videos, I added it to my future 10-bagger folder. I felt like I understood the technology. I lost 40% in 3 months. Why? Because I did not understand battery chemistry. I did not understand manufacturing at scale. I did not understand how competitive the battery market actually is. I thought I was inside my circle. I was miles outside it. Here is Munger's rule. If you have to do complex math to justify an investment, say no. Great opportunities are obvious. They hit you over the head. When you find yourself stretching to understand why something is a good investment, you are outside your circle. Step back. That is trap number 2, thinking you understand something you do not. Trap number 3, herd mentality. You think you are immune to this. Everyone thinks they are immune to this. That is what makes it so dangerous. In 2017, Bitcoin went from dollars to $20,000. Everyone was talking about it. Your Uber driver, your barber, your mom. People who had never invested before were buying crypto. Smart people knew it was a bubble. They understood the technology was not ready. They understood the valuations made no sense. But many of them bought anyway. Why? Because they saw other people getting rich, and the pain of watching others make money felt worse than the risk of losing their own. This is loss aversion inverted. Not fear of losing what you have. Fear of missing out on what others are getting. GameStop, January 2021. Hedge funds were short, Reddit traders were buying. The stock went from $20 to $480 in 2 weeks. Smart people who knew it was completely irrational jumped in anyway, because the herd was moving, and they did not want to miss the ride. Here is what Munger understands about human nature. Our brains evolved to follow the tribe for millions of years. If everyone started running, you ran first and asked questions later. That kept you alive. But in investing, that instinct destroys you. The fix sounds simple. When everyone is buying, be terrified. When everyone is terrified, be greedy. But here's the key. Not contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. Contrarian because you actually did the work, because you know your circle of competence, because you have done the valuation. Munger and Buffett sat out the dot-com boom in the late 90s. Everyone called them has-beens, washed up, out of touch with the new economy. Then the crash came and they looked like geniuses. They were not following the herd. They were following their circle of competence and their valuation discipline. They simply refused to buy things they did not understand, no matter how high the price went. That is the difference. Trap number 3, following the crowd because it feels safer than thinking for yourself. Trap number 4, the sunk cost fallacy. This is the trap that cost me most of my $50,000. Here is exactly what happened. I bought a stock. Let us call it Tech Corp. I had done my research. I understood the business. It was inside my circle. The stock dropped 10%. I told myself, this is a gift. The market is being irrational. I am a long-term investor, so I bought more. Then it dropped 20%. I checked my thesis. Nothing had changed. The fundamentals were still solid, so I doubled down again. By the time it was down 50%, I had invested $50,000 into this one position. $50,000 that I had saved over years of working. And here is the worst part. I knew I should sell. Deep down, I knew the thesis had changed. The competitive landscape had shifted, but I could not pull the trigger because selling meant admitting I was wrong. Admitting I was wrong meant admitting I had lost $50,000. But here is the truth I could not accept at the time. I had already lost it. The money was gone. The only question was whether I would lose more. This is called the sunk cost fallacy. The more you invest in something, the harder it becomes to walk away. Even when walking away is clearly the rational choice. The name comes from the Concorde fallacy. The British and French governments spent billions developing the Concorde supersonic jet. Long after it became clear the project would never be profitable, they kept pouring money into it because they had already spent so much. They could not bear to admit it was a mistake. Smart people do this constantly because smart people hate admitting mistakes. It threatens their identity. If I am smart, how could I make a dumb decision? Here is Munger's solution. He calls it the ability to destroy your own best-loved ideas. When the facts change, you must change your mind, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. Munger says the ability to rapidly destroy bad ideas is one of the most valuable skills in investing. Not finding good ideas, destroying bad ones. Before they destroy you, I eventually sold Tech Corp. I lost $45,000 on that position alone. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done, but it taught me a lesson worth far more than the money I lost. Your ego is not your friend in investing. That is trap number 4. Doubling down on losers because your ego cannot handle admitting a mistake. Trap number 5, narrative bias. This is the most dangerous trap of all because it does not feel like a trap. It feels like understanding. Here is how it works. Your brain loves stories. It loves cause and effect. It loves heroes and villains. It loves simple narratives that make complex reality feel manageable. So when you research an investment, you unconsciously construct a story. This company is disrupting the industry. The founder is a visionary genius. The technology is revolutionary. The total addressable market is enormous. This is the future. The narrative becomes so compelling that you stop looking at the actual numbers. The story takes over. This is exactly what happened with WeWork. The narrative was beautiful, community disruption, the future of work. Adam Newman was a charismatic visionary. The story was perfect. The financials were a disaster. Billions in losses. No clear path to profitability. Insane related party transactions where the founder was leasing buildings to his own company. Red flags everywhere. But the narrative was so strong that smart investors ignored the numbers. SoftBank invested billions. They lost almost all of it. Why do smart people fall for this? Because they are good at constructing narratives. They can explain anything. They can rationalize anything. Give a smart person a story they want to believe, and they will find evidence to support it. Tesla went through this cycle too. At certain points, the narrative was so powerful that valuation became irrelevant. It was not a car company. It was an energy company. It was a robotaxi company. It was an AI company. Each new story justified a higher price. Maybe some of those stories will come true. Maybe not. The point is that when you invest based on narrative, you are no longer investing. You are speculating. You are betting on stories. The fix: separate the story from the numbers. Always start with the financials. If the numbers do not support the narrative is wrong, not the numbers. Munger never invests based on stories. He invests based on fundamentals, competitive advantages, management quality, valuation. The boring stuff that does not make good cocktail party conversation, because boring is where the money is. That is trap number 5. Falling in love with the story and ignoring the facts. Okay, we covered all 5 traps: overconfidence, circle of competence illusion, herd mentality, sunk cost fallacy, narrative bias. Now, let me give you the antidote. Charlie Munger's secret weapon: inversion. Most people ask, how do I make money? Munger asks, how do I avoid losing money? He inverts the problem. Instead of asking what makes a good investment, ask what makes a bad investment. Then avoid those things. Instead of asking how to succeed, ask how to fail. Then do the opposite. Here is Munger's anti-checklist. 3 questions to ask before every investment. Question 1, how could I lose all my money in this investment? Not some. All force yourself to imagine the worst case scenario. Really imagine it. What would have to happen? How likely is it? If you cannot handle the worst case, do not invest. Question 2, what would make me sell this investment? Set your exit criteria before you buy, not after, when emotions are cold. When you are rational, decide what facts would make you exit. Then write it down and stick to it. Question 3, if I could not sell this for 10 years, would I still buy it today? This eliminates trading mentality. This eliminates FOMO. This forces you to think about the actual business, not the stock price. If you would not hold it for 10 years, you should not hold it for 10 minutes. That is Munger. That is Buffett. That is how they built their fortunes. Not by being geniuses, by being consistently not stupid. To recap, before every investment, ask yourself 3 questions. How could I lose everything? What would make me sell? Would I hold this for 10 years? These 3 questions will filter out 90% of bad investments before you ever make them. That loss in 2021 taught me the most important lesson of my investing life. Investing is not about intelligence. It is about temperament. It is about knowing yourself. It is about having the discipline to do the boring things, right? Today, I do not trade. I do not time the market. I do not chase narratives. I buy index funds for the core of my portfolio. I hold a few individual stocks that I truly understand inside my circle of competence that I would be happy to hold for a decade or more. My returns are boring, and I am perfectly fine with that because boring beats smart every single time. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm to show this to more people who might need to hear it. I also put together a 1-page checklist based on Munger's inversion method. The 3 questions plus a few more that I use before making any investment. It is linked in the description below. And if you want more deep dives like this, subscribe. I post every week, no fluff. Just real lessons from real mistakes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying until the end. Now go invert something.